a U.S. military drone shooting a missile at an unidentified object just off the coast of Yemen.
Everyone knows what happens when you poke a hornet's nest, but what happens when you shoot it with one of the world's most advanced missiles and it doesn't even seem to notice? For decades, the Pentagon has treated UFOs as a joke or a weather balloon. That policy ended forever when a Hellfire missile confirmed a direct hit on an object over the ocean. The aftermath of that engagement wasn't a crash site investigation. It was a complete information lockdown that has left lawmakers speechless. We have the footage, we have the data, and the conclusion is terrifying. Target of unknown origin. In the world of military aviation, there are rules of engagement, there are protocols. But you see, all of those rules are based on one simple assumption, that you understand what you are shooting at. On a clear afternoon in early September 2025, over a desolate stretch of the Pacific Ocean, hundreds of miles from the California coast, that assumption was shattered. It started with a routine patrol. A U.S. Navy carrier strike group was conducting exercises when their state-of-the-art AEGIS combat system began tracking multiple anomalies. They weren't planes, they weren't missiles, and they sure weren't weather balloons. These objects, referred to in the official logs as unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, were performing maneuvers that seemed to mock the laws of physics. The radar data, which was later leaked by a source deep within the Department of Defense, showed these objects dropping from altitudes of over 80,000 feet to just 50 feet above the water in less than 2 seconds. That's a speed that would crush any human pilot and tear apart any known aircraft. For nearly an hour, they moved in and out of the carrier group's airspace, never showing hostile intent, but their very presence was a challenge. They outflew FA-18 Super Hornets sent to intercept, appearing on their radar one moment and vanishing the next. The thing nobody tells you is that this wasn't the first time. For months, Navy pilots had been reporting these tic-tac-shaped objects, but this time was different. This time, they stayed. The command was given to deploy an MQ-9 Reaper drone. Unmanned and equipped with a sophisticated sensor package, the Reaper could observe from a safe distance. For 20 minutes, it tailed one of the UAPs, a smooth, white oblong object with no visible means of propulsion. Its sensors captured thermal, infrared, and optical data, all of which returned a single maddening result. Nothing. No heat signature, no exhaust, no wings, no engines. It was a solid object moving at hypersonic speeds in complete silence. What many overlooked in the initial reports was the object's behavior. It seemed to be aware of the drone, matching its speed and altitude perfectly, almost as if it were observing its observer. Then it began to descend towards one of the destroyers in the fleet. It wasn't an attack dive, but it was a clear move towards a U.S. warship. That's when the line was crossed. The order was given from the Combat Information Center, engage the target. The Reaper's operator, located thousands of miles away in a control station in Nevada, locked on. The weapon of choice, an AGM-114 Hellfire missile, a weapon designed to destroy tanks, bunkers, and helicopters. It travels at Mach 1.3, a little over 1,000 miles per hour. The Reaper's camera zoomed in, the targeting laser painted the UAP, and with a digital click, the missile was away. The leaked footage is chilling. It shows a small streak of light detaching from the drone and closing the distance in seconds. The UAP makes no attempt to evade. It simply continues its slow descent. Then there's a flash, a perfect hit. But the real story isn't the hit, it's what was missing. The sound of a broken arrow. In the silent, detached reality of drone warfare, an operator expects to see a fireball. They expect to see shrapnel, smoke, and falling debris. A direct hit from a Hellfire missile with its 70-pound high-explosive warhead is a catastrophic event for any target made by human hands. But when the Hellfire struck the UAP, the unthinkable happened. There was no explosion. The flash seen on camera was the missile's own warhead detonating, but the object itself seemed to absorb it. For a fraction of a second, the UAP glowed with a faint white light, and then it simply stopped dead in the air. All of its hypersonic momentum vanished in an instant, an act that violates Newton's first law of motion. The Reaper's sensors, which went haywire for a moment from the blast's electromagnetic pulse, came back online to a scene of absolute impossibility. The UAP was hanging motionless in the air, completely unharmed. The high-resolution video feed showed the same smooth white surface. No scorch marks, no impact crater, no damage whatsoever. To put it mildly, the atmosphere in the control room in Nevada went from clinical professionalism to stunned silence. They had fired one of their most reliable weapons at an unknown object, scored a direct hit, and the only result was that the target had decided to stop and stare back. What happened next escalated the situation from a mystery to a potential crisis. The object, still hovering, appeared to turn. With no visible thrusters or control surfaces, it oriented itself to face the MQ-9 Reaper drone directly, which was circling from several miles away. According to the leaked sensor logs, the UAP then emitted a single focused pulse of energy. It wasn't a weapon, as it caused no damage to the drone. Instead, it was described by analysts as an active scan, a wave of energy so advanced it mapped the Reaper drone down to its individual circuits. It was like a bat using sonar, but on a technological level that our science doesn't even have a theory for. After about 3 seconds of this silent scan, the UAP simply vanished. It didn't accelerate away. One frame of the video feed showed it there, the next showed empty sky. It was gone. Immediately, a massive search and recovery operation was launched. Helicopters were scrambled from the carrier and destroyers converged on the last known coordinates of the engagement. They were looking for any sign of the object, any debris, any strange metallic fragments, any evidence at all. For 72 hours, they combed a 100-square-mile patch of the Pacific. They found nothing, not a single piece of wreckage. It was as if the entire event never happened. But it did happen. The U.S. military had the radar data, the drone footage, and the telemetry from the missile. They had irrefutable proof that they had engaged an object of non-terrestrial origin, an object that could shrug off a missile and possess technology that was, by any measure, magic. And that's when the silence began to fall. A secret too big to keep. The initial leak was a trickle, a grainy radar image posted on an obscure aviation forum. Then came a short, silent clip of the missile impact. Within 24 hours, the story was on every major news network. The Pentagon's first response was predictable and dismissive. A spokesperson stated that a training exercise had occurred involving a drone and a new type of target flare. They called the footage misinterpreted and urged the public to disregard sensationalist speculation. But this time, the story wouldn't go away. The quality of the leaked data was too high, and the source was clearly credible. Many people are crazy about UFOs, but this was different. It was hard evidence. Pressure mounted on Congress to investigate. The House Oversight Committee, which had recently held hearings with UAP whistleblower David Grush, immediately scheduled an emergency closed-door session. High-ranking officials from the Navy and the Pentagon were called to testify. This, everyone thought, was the moment of disclosure. This was when the truth would finally come out. But then a strange and chilling silence descended upon Washington, D.C. The emergency hearing was abruptly postponed indefinitely with no explanation. Members of the committee who had been vocal on social media demanding answers suddenly went quiet. Their phones went unanswered. Their press secretaries issued bland one-line statements about ongoing national security reviews. The thing nobody tells you is what happens behind those closed doors. Sources with knowledge of the briefing described a scene not of debate, but of sheer terror. The committee members were shown the full high-definition footage from the Reaper drone. They were shown the energy analysis of the UAP's scan. They were presented with a stark and undeniable conclusion from the intelligence community. The technology of the UAP was not just decades or centuries ahead of ours. It was estimated to be thousands, if not tens of thousands of years more advanced. The fact that the object took a direct hit from a missile without any damage wasn't seen as a failure of our weapons, but as a deliberate and terrifying message. The message was clear. Your power is irrelevant. This wasn't a military or a political problem anymore. It was an existential one, the revelation that we are sharing the planet with a technology so far beyond our own, a technology that could disable our most powerful weapons with no effort, changed everything. The silence from Congress wasn't a conspiracy to hide the truth from the public. It was the result of a panicked realization that they had no answers to give. How do you tell the world that everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe is wrong? How do you admit that you are utterly powerless? The decision was made at the highest levels. The truth was simply too destabilizing, too frightening. The official story would be the training exercise. Any lawmaker or official who spoke out would face charges under the Espionage Act. The silence wasn't a choice, it was an order. The cover-up had begun, but the truth was already out there. Answering the great question. For anyone following this, it's easy to get caught up in the incredible footage and the drama in Washington. It can feel like this whole thing just happened overnight, a single, shocking event that changed the world. But the thing is, this event wasn't a beginning. It was a confirmation. It was the exclamation point at the end of a sentence that whistleblowers and eyewitnesses have been writing for over 75 years. For decades, these stories were pushed to the fringes, dismissed as fantasy. But the sheer volume of them, from credible sources, became impossible to ignore. We're talking about the Nimitz encounters in 2004, where seasoned Navy pilots reported tic-tac objects performing impossible maneuvers right in front of them. We're talking about the gimbal and go-fast videos officially released by the Pentagon showing craft with no visible means of propulsion. And of course, the bombshell testimony of David Grush, a former intelligence official who told Congress under oath that the government has been secretly recovering and reverse engineering non-human craft for decades. For years, the official explanation was always just around the corner. It was swamp gas, a weather balloon, an atmospheric anomaly, or a trick of the light. Every piece of strange evidence was compartmentalized and explained away individually. What many have overlooked is that the power of this new footage isn't just in what it shows, but in how it connects all those other dots. This missile strike over the Pacific is the single piece of data that snaps all those other stories into focus. It transforms them from strange, isolated anecdotes into a clear and consistent pattern. Suddenly, the strange tales of wreckage at Roswell or the silent, hovering triangles seen over countless cities don't seem so strange anymore. They seem like pieces of a much larger and far more incredible puzzle. Are we missing a key detail that explains everything? Perhaps, but the evidence we do have points to a staggering conclusion. We are not alone, and we have never been alone. This isn't just a scientific revelation, it's a profound psychological shift. All of our history, our conflicts, our religions, and our science have been built on the bedrock assumption that we are the sole proprietors of intelligent life on this planet. That foundation now has a crack right down the middle. This changes our place in the universe. We are no longer the masters of our domain, but perhaps just one species among many, and a relatively primitive one at that. It makes you wonder, what does this new reality mean for us? The silence from Congress is born of fear, a fear of admitting powerlessness. But what should our reaction be? This object did not respond with hostility. It was provoked. It was struck by a weapon designed to obliterate, and its response was to simply scan our technology and leave peacefully. Is this a sign of peaceful intent, a demonstration of restraint, or is it the dismissive action of a superior power that simply does not view us as a threat in the same way an adult wouldn't retaliate against a child's tantrum? The questions are monumental. Was the entire encounter a test? A deliberate demonstration to a few powerful people of exactly where we stand in the cosmic pecking order? The incident with the Reaper drone proved that our planet has not given up all its secrets. In fact, it might be holding the biggest one of all. If we are so hopelessly outmatched, is our silence a strategy for survival, or is it just delaying the inevitable? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more answers to the world's greatest mysteries.